Right? Okay. So we have about 40 students now. Okay, let's start. Okay, can we start, guys? Can? Okay. So what we are going to do today is first I'm going to share with you. Since most of you have not had your science exam, I'm going to go through with you again time management skills in PSLE science, because I noticed that some students you lose marks because you are not able to manage your time properly during the science exam itself. Some of you, you left out some questions blank, open-ended questions, and even the MCQ questions. Some students, you finish too early, but you get a lot of questions wrong. Okay, right. So I will go through what is the ideal, time allocation for the different components in your science exam. Okay. All right. Okay. Please no chatting now. Please listen very carefully. Okay, tahan no chatting, because I'm not going to pay attention to the chat at this point of time, because I cannot focus on too many things. Okay, and all right. So first, time management in PSLE science. Number two will be mind mapping skills. Okay, to help you link and recall concepts. Just a brief introduction or a recap about mind mapping. Okay, why is it important and how it can help you in science? And then the main part of today's webinar, I'm going to discuss past PSLE questions on the topic of life sciences. Okay, in the previous webinar, we had a session on physical sciences. Now, in today's webinar, I'm going to focus on topics on life sciences. Example, webs of life, adaptations, plant reproduction. Okay, these are the life sciences topic in your PSLE science. All right. Okay. Ian say you love mind mapping. Okay, so we are going to, I'm going to go through mind mapping very shortly. So, but before this, I'm going to share with you time management skills in your science exam, in science PSLE exam. Now, you will be the first batch sitting for the new science syllabus, new science PSLE syllabus. But not to worry, there's not much change. Okay, the main change at the moment is the allocation of marks between booklet A and booklet B, but very, very minor. In the past, you have 30 questions in MCQ, right? Now, 30 questions and 60 marks, 2 marks each. But now what happened is that they have reduced the number of MCQ questions. So the total marks, maximum marks that you can get for MCQ is 56. Okay, 28 multiplied by 2, okay, you get 56 marks. And because of the reduction in the number of MCQ, the mark allocation for open-ended question has increased from 40 to 44 marks. Okay, all right, so it has increased to 44 marks. So what it means is that there is an increase, emphasis on the open-ended questions. Okay, an increased emphasis in the PSLE science on the open-ended questions, and you know that many students are not able to score in the open-ended part of your science exam. MCQ, it is manageable, but because of answering technique, many students are not able to score in the open-ended question. Okay, so you have to pay more attention to answering technique and the open-ended question. Okay, now let's analyze the mark allocation. Okay, so the total duration of the paper is 1 hour 45 minutes. Now 1 hour 45 minutes is about 105 minutes. Okay, or you can say 100 minutes, approximately 100 minutes. And since it is 100 marks, you have around 1 minute per mark. Right? For every 1 mark, you have around 1 minute to do. Okay, mark allocated will be time allocated that you should allocate to a 1 mark question should be 1 minute. Since MCQ it is 2 minutes, 2 marks, right? You should allocate maximum of 2 minutes. However, I would not recommend that you take 2 minutes to answer the multiple choice question. Why? Because you will need more time in your open-ended question. Right? You know that in the open-ended question, even for 1 mark question, you are required to answer quite a fair bit. Sometimes you need to write a few sentences. Sometimes you have to explain in even one short paragraph. Okay, so MCQ, I would recommend that you should take a maximum of around 1.5 minutes or 1.5 minute per MCQ question. Okay, about 1.5 minutes per MCQ question. Right, and you know that MCQ questions, some questions are quite long. Okay, you will take some time to analyze the question and answer the questions accurately. So if you take 1.5 minutes, 1.5 minutes per MCQ question, you should take around 42 minutes to complete your multiple choice questions. And then you have to move on to booklet B. All right. So the booklet B open-ended question, you will be left with about 50 to 55 minutes. So you have to watch the clock very, very carefully. Okay, you have to watch the clock very carefully and make sure you do not spend too much time in your MCQ questions. Now, many students, you spend too much time in the MCQ section. So instead of allocating about 42 to 45 minutes, you spend about more than 1 hour in the multiple choice question. So what happens when you do this? You have less time for your open-ended question. And because of this, you are not able to complete the last few questions, or you have to rush through to write or to explain the open-ended questions. So it gives you quite a lot of problem. On the other hand, I also have some students who rush through the MCQ questions. All right, you complete the MCQ question in say 30 minutes, and you rush through, and then you spend more time on the open-ended question. But because you rush through the multiple choice question, and you know each question is very valuable, it carries 2 marks. You can either score 2 marks easily, or you can lose the 2 marks easily. So you will, if you spend too short of a time and then you rush through, so you make mistakes. You overlook some important keywords, and then you make careless mistakes, right? And you lose unnecessary marks in your MCQ. And you know, to score A star, if those of you who are aiming for A star for your PSLE science, multiple choice question, you should get as high marks as possible, preferably perfect score, or maybe at most 1 or 2 mistakes. If you want to score full marks for your, or you want to score an A star for your science paper. Okay, and of course you need time to check. Okay, so you spend about 42 minutes to 45 minutes on your MCQ, and an open-ended question 50 to 55 minutes. So you are left with about 5 to 10 minutes to check. And what can you check for science? What can you check? What should you check for science? Okay, anyone? What can you check for science? The answers, okay, the answers to the open-ended question. Check the phrasing. All right, based on your experience, frankly, do you think you have a lot of time to check for science? No, okay, Mikael said you have a lot of time. Never. Okay, from my experience invigilating many science exam, frankly, you will not have much time to check very, very thoroughly. Okay, so what you should check first, number 1, is to ensure that you have shaded the multiple choice questions in the OAS correctly. Okay, this seem to be, you know, something very easy, or you know, something which is something which everybody should know, but some students take for granted, and they, you know, some students, you do not immediately after every MCQ question, you did not shade the OAS. You wait for you to complete the entire MCQ question before you shade. But you know, because of that, you may miss some questions, and then I have students who get the entire MCQ wrong because they shade at the last moment, and then they miss some numbers, and they get wrong for most part of the MCQ. Okay, so make sure you shade correctly, and make sure all the MCQ questions are shaded, are answered. You do not want, even if you do not know, you have to shade something. All right, even though you have left out and you do not have time, left to read the question. You cannot leave any questions blank. Okay, so even though if you anyhow shade an answer, at least you have 25% chance of getting the answer correct, right? So you need to manage your time properly. Okay, you should shade and you check every single page in the booklet B. Make sure that you do not leave any open-ended questions empty. Okay, you should answer every single question. Okay, if you check that, you will take at least about 2 to 3 minutes to go through. And if you have left out anything, you should, make sure that you shade and answer those questions immediately. So the remaining time, then you check the open-ended question, the phrasing of the questions, whether you miss any important keywords. And another advice I give to my students is that you should, any questions that you are not 100% sure, you circle that question. You circle the number of that question. So let's say the entire science paper, you are very sure of the answer of say 90% of the question, but you are not sure of the remaining 10%. So those 10%, you circle the number, and during checking, you go back and check those questions first. Okay, so frankly, there's not much time for you to check through every question. So you should check those questions that you are not very sure first. Okay, all right. So let's see some of your questions. Write the answer in the paper. Okay, can we ask question related to science topic? Yes, later, don't worry, Zikran. I will give you time to answer, to ask question related to your science paper. Okay, all right, let's move on to the next part, which is mind mapping. All right, mind mapping. Now, any questions with regards to time management? Any question with regards to the time allocation and so on? Now, please remember, I repeat again, your MCQ question, you should spend about 42 to 45 minutes maximum, and you should move on to the open-ended questions. Do not take too long in your multiple choice questions. And do not take too fast also. Do not 20 minutes you finish the entire MCQ question. You need to read very, very carefully, read the keywords, okay, and use the strategies that I've taught you, elimination strategies and so on. Sure. If we spend 1 hour, can we finish booklet B? Yes, you don't have much time. The entire paper, you are given only 1 hour 45 minutes. If you take 45 minutes to do the multiple choice question, then you have a maximum of 1 hour to do the open-ended questions. Okay, you need to complete within that time duration. How about if the MCQ question is hard? Okay, so of course, if you find the questions hard, then you take more time to read through the questions. So at the first place, you should not come to that situation where you find all the questions are tough. Okay? If you are in that situation, that means you are in trouble. So that's why the preparation starts from now. Okay? You need to ensure that you are thoroughly familiar with the concepts. Now, in every exam, in every paper, there are some questions which are tough, but not every question. Okay, the examiners are very fair. PSLE is very fair. Maths question, for example, 1, 2, 3 mark questions are relatively okay, right? Most students are able to answer. The 5 questions are the 5 mark questions are the questions that differentiates between students who are getting A star and A. Right? So not all questions are difficult. Most questions are easy, manageable, but there are a few questions which are a little bit challenging, right? Requires a little bit more of thinking. So those questions, you can leave it to the end. All right. So if you are not sure of any questions, you circle that question and you move on, grab the other marks first, and then towards the end, then you go back to that particular question. Right? You do not want to be in a situation where you spend too much time thinking about the answer for one MCQ question, 5 minutes to think. Okay, remember, you have only about 1.5 minutes allocated per multiple choice question. So if you have spent about 5 minutes to think about the multiple choice question, then you shouldn't be in that position. All right. Okay. Any other questions related to time management? No, huh? Okay, very good. Can we move on? All right. Now, mind mapping. Now, this part mind mapping are for not for all our students. Now, many students, many of you, you can master the science concepts quite easily. Meaning that you have made significant, revision to remember and recall, remember all the important keywords. But some of you, you forget easily. Any of you, you forget after you study, you forget easily. Trinity, all right. Saif, okay. So many of you, many students, I noticed that for science, you have forgotten the concepts that you have learned in the earlier topics, like P3 topics. For example, digestive system, you have forgotten what's the difference between the small intestine and the large intestine, all right. And then on the topic of P4 topics on light, how are shadows formed, what are the key concepts on the topic of magnets. You have forgotten some, whether like pole or unlike poles. Now all these concepts, it has to be at your fingertips, during and before the exams. Okay, so one of the way to help you remember is to use mind mapping technique. Now, some students forget easily. It's normal. Many students or humans, as humans, we forget. Okay, what we eat yesterday for breakfast, forget. I forgotten what I ate yesterday for breakfast. All right, we forget things very, very easily. Okay, but what we can do is to help you to remember the key concepts is using mind mapping. Okay, so I'm going to share with you just some slides on how to or what are the benefits of mind mapping. Okay, now let's take a look. Okay, so take a look. This is a nice mind map on the topic of water. Okay, so this is a nice mind map on the topic of water. Now, if you look at the water, you learn in primary 5, right? You learn in primary 5, and you can see here the mind map here. The water and the picture is right in the middle. See what are the different where you can find water, and all about water, the shape, the volume, right? The characteristics of water and the different states. Okay, condensation, evaporation, the change of state of water, and then freezing, melting, evaporation, condensation. Okay, you can see that the entire chapter on water is condensed or is presented in this one single mind map. All right. So what is the advantage of doing mind map? Number one, it uses colors. Okay, you can see here different colors: blue color, purple, green colors. All right, black color. Images. Now, as humans, we remember images, pictures better than words. Correct or not? Okay, if you remember, if you read books, novels, right? No, many people are attracted to books or magazines which have lots of pictures rather than just words. Okay, so because it's naturally our brain remember better when there are images. So keywords. Okay, so they are all keywords, not the entire paragraphs. Keywords to enhance memory and retention. Now, some students, they read and then they forget easily. So what we want to do is that we want to read and we want the information to stay with us so that during the exam we can recall easily. There's no point study and then we forget. And then exam we cannot recall, right? Because in the exams you cannot you cannot open a book and check. You cannot go to your notes again. You need to depend on your memory to get the concepts and the information. All right. So another advantage of mind map is that it identifies relationships and concepts. All right. So you can see here the different concepts. Okay, they are related, and it is put together in mind map. And the third point here is summary of the key concepts in one page to facilitate revision. So let's say there are 20 topics overall to prepare for your exam. So all these, when preparing for your exam, in the just before the examination, entering the examination hall, all you need to do is to have a file with these 20 beautiful mind maps. Okay, that's all you need. Okay, rather than carrying books and books to go through before the exams. All right. So it summarizes the entire chapter in one nice picture. Okay, this is another example on the topic of energy. Okay, topic of energy. So you can see here conversion of energy, different sources of energy, different forms of energy. Right, you can see different colors. It uses images, photosynthesis. All right, okay, different colors. You have green, you have blue, you have pink, and you have different thickness of the arrows here, of the lines. You see these thick lines and then thinner lines, right? So this is an example of another good mind map on the topic of energy. Okay. All right. So I hope that if you have difficulty remembering the concepts, you can use this strategy to to help you remember and retain the concepts that you have read. All right. Okay. Let's move on. Okay. Now we are going to move on to the. I'm going to start off with some MCQ questions, and then we move on to the open-ended questions on the topic of life sciences. So these questions are taken from past PSLE. Okay, now let's take a look at the first question here. Okay, let's take about 1 minute to read the question. All of you, look at the question. Okay, please refrain from chatting at this point of time. Later, I'll give you time. I want you to focus. All right. Okay, the characteristics of two organisms are shown below. Number one, it makes its own food, reproduced from spores. Okay, now what can you share with us? What what produces from spores? Anyone? Ferns. Okay, is it only ferns? Ferns and fungi. Okay, very good. Ferns and fungi, it reproduce from spores. Why? Because they are non-flowering. Right? So you can see here, reproduce from spores. What could organism S and T be? Okay, what could S and T be? Now let's recap the concepts. Okay, so this topic is about reproduction in non-flowering plants. Now ferns and fungi, they reproduce from spores. Okay, we know that they are non-flowering, but only ferns can make its own food. Why? Because ferns have green leaves and they undergo photosynthesis. Okay, they undergo photosynthesis. But fungi, they do not make its own food. It doesn't have leaves, but fungi gets their food from growing on other living organisms and getting their food from that organism. Okay, so from here you can see that. Okay, let's take a look at option number one. A mushroom and flowering plant. Okay, now S make its own food. Okay, the flowering plant is able to make its own food. And reproduce from spores? No. So number one is totally out, eliminated. Option number two. Okay, ferns. As ferns make its own food? No. Yes, ferns actually make its own food. Okay, so option number two and option number three you can eliminate because ferns, they make their own food. They make their own food. So the only answer is number four. Right? Because you have mushroom here is a fungi. Now fungi, it doesn't make its own food, but it produces from spores. But ferns, it makes its own food and it produces through spores. Okay, so number four is the correct answer. Okay, easy, right? Okay, let's move on to the next question. Now let's take a look at this question. Past PSLE question. I think it's 2016 paper on the topic of, anyone? What concepts are they testing you here? On digestive system, right? On digestive system. Okay, now let's do a bit of recap. What are the organs in the digestive system that you need to know? Anyone? The mouth, very good. So it starts from the mouth, right? Digestion starts from the mouth. Okay, the stomach, gullet. Okay, and then it goes to the small intestine and the large intestine. Now, do you remember the functions of the different organs in the digestive system? All right. Okay, so you need to know. You need to know the various functions. Let's do a bit of recap. Now the mouth is where digestion takes place. Okay, it starts from the mouth. Right? When you chew the food into smaller pieces, you are actually assisting in in the digestion, because when you chew food into smaller pieces, you are increasing the exposed surface area of the food. Okay, so it can be digested more easily by the saliva. Now saliva contains digestive juices, which helps to break down food into simpler substances. And then it goes into the stomach, right? It goes to the stomach. The food mixed with digestive juices to break down into further simpler substances, and it becomes liquid-like substance and moves to the small intestine. Okay, so what happened in the small intestine? Okay, the digested food passes through the lining of the small intestine into the blood and distributed to all parts of the body. This is where, this is where the digested food is being absorbed, right, in the small intestine. And large intestine is where water and mineral salts are absorbed, okay, and pass through the walls of the large intestine and into the blood. So from here, let's take a look at M here. Now, let's take a look at L. L is a mouth, right? Now, can this be L or not? Is this possible? Not possible, right? Because L, it says that L passes food to the bloodstream. Now, it doesn't go to the bloodstream at the mouth. Now, likewise, J also. J removes water from the food. No, okay, you don't remove the water from the food at the mouth. Okay, so so you can eliminate option number. Remember, I teach you elimination strategy, right? You eliminate option 3 and option 4. So you're left with option 1 and option 2. Now, the difference between 1 and 2 is this, L and J and L here. So now you need to know the difference between the small intestine and the large intestine. So let's take a look at number 2. Number 2 says that the small intestine is J. It removes water from the food. Is it true or not? The function of the small intestine is to remove water from the food. All right. Okay. So the part which removes water from the food will be the large intestine. Now this is the large intestine. Okay. So the only possible answer is the option number 1. Okay. All right. So you can see here the large intestine, and this is the smaller intestine. All right. Easy, yeah. Can all you think you can get the correct answer in the PSLE? Okay, very good. Done, Okay, a few more MCQ questions, then we'll move on to the open-ended question. Now, this is on the past PSLE question again. I think last year or 2 years ago. Now, this is on the topic of webs of life or food web. Now, by looking at the food web, remember I tell you, right? First, you need to identify the food producer. Now, where is the food producer? Yes, R. How do you know R is a food producer? How do you know R is a food producer? Yes, all right. Because, okay, do you know what's the meaning of this arrow here? Now, let's take a look at this arrow. Arrow means eaten by, right? Arrow means eaten by. So if R eaten by T, R eaten by U, and R eaten by S, and it doesn't fit on any other organism, okay, so you know that this is the food producer because all the arrows are pointing out. Okay, so you know that there's only one food producer, which is R. This is the food producer. Now, is T a predator? Is T a predator? Anyone? No. Why is T not a predator, even though it fits on R? Do you know why? Why is it not called a predator? Yes, right. Because R is a plant or a food producer. If an organism fits on a plant, we don't call the organism. There is no prey-predator relationship. Okay, because this is the predator. R is a food producer or the plant, like goat eating grass. We don't say that T is the predator and R is the prey. Okay, but W and U, yes, you can call this prey-predator relationship. You can say W is the predator and U is a prey. Okay. Now let's take a look at B. There's only one fruit producer. Yes, there's only one fruit producer. And C, all the energy in S is transferred to W. Now is C right or wrong? And explain. Anyone can explain? Okay, Ishira, why is C not correct? Yes, very good. Not all energy are transferred. Here in this statement here, they say that all the energy is S is transferred to W. But it's not true. Why? Because some of the energy, okay, is used by S, by organism S for life processes. So only a small fraction, about 10% of energy is being passed on, okay, to the next organism. All right. So the correct answer is option number 2. Only B. There is only one producer. Okay. All right. Now let's move on to the next question. Now this is the topic of plant reproduction. Okay, more specifically on pollination. Okay, past PSLE question. The diagram shows the flowers of two plants, plant A and plant B, okay, of the same type. Which of the arrow shows pollination taking place? Now let's recap. What's the meaning of pollination? Okay, what's the meaning of pollination? Pollination is a transfer of pollen grains to the stigma, right? Now pollen grains, where do you get the pollen grains from? From the anther, right? Now let's take a look at all the various arrows here. Now let's take a look at W first. Now W from this anther, okay, to the stigma here. Is this a possible pollination? W? Yes, right? Now X. X is right or wrong? X is not possible, right? Because from the stigma goes to the anther. Is this a pollination? No, right? Okay, X is not a pollination. So you can eliminate option number 1. Okay. Now let's say Y. Y from this anther go to the stigma of another flower. Is it possible or not? Yes, right. We call this cross pollination. We call this cross pollination. It happens. It can be facilitated by wind or by insects, like birds and bees. Okay, the birds goes to this flower, okay, to feed on the nectar, and then the pollen grains is brushed against the body or the leg of the insect, okay, and it goes to another flower, okay, and the pollen grains is brushed off at the stigma. Okay, so Y is also possible. What about this Z? From this, from this anther goes into this stigma. Is it possible? Yeah, we call this self-pollination. We call this self-pollination. Okay, so the answer is number 4. All right, the answer is number 4. Okay, all of you got that? Easy, right? Some of you say number 3. Yeah. Okay, why some of you say number 3? Self-pollination is also possible. That means from the pollen grain of the same flower goes to the stigma of the same flower. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next topic. Now this is on the topic of food web. All right, or webs of life. Okay. So you can see here. First, you need to analyze the graph. You must be able to understand the graph. So the vertical axis here is the size of the population, and the horizontal axis here is time. Time in terms of measure in terms of week. Okay. Now John conducted an experiment to study the food relationship between animal X, Y, and P. Animal P feeds on leaves only, and animal X, Y, and P has no diseases. Okay, no diseases. That means the population does not decrease because of diseases. And they say that animal P feeds on leaves only, so you know that it is a plant eater. Okay, so now why is animal Y, he counted the number of animals at the end of the week. After 2 weeks, he added animal Y. So before this, before week number 2, there's no animal Y. Now, if you see this organism X, right? Organism X increases. Okay, as organism X increases, the organism P decreases. So what can you say about the relationship between X and P? Is there any relationship between X and P? Yes. What is the relationship? X feeds on P, right? That's why when the population of X increases, okay, the population of P decreases. Now, after week number 2, Y is being introduced. So when Y is introduced, you can see the population of Y increases. As Y increases, now population of X starts to decrease, right? Population of X starts to decrease. When population X starts to decrease, and then you can see that the population of P increases. And since we have analyzed that X fits on P, so when there's less and less of X, so the population of P will increase, right? So what's the correct answer? The correct answer is animal Y feed on X, right? When you see animal Y increasing, then animal X, the organism population of X decreases. Okay, so the answer is number 1. All right? Can, huh? Okay. Now let's move on to the open-ended question. Let's move on to open-ended question. Okay. Now I give you about 2 minutes to read through this question. All right. Okay. Sorry. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Okay. Very good. Let's analyze this question. Now, what topic is this question about? Remember, when you see any science question, you need to look at what topic are they testing you here. What topic is it? About photosynthesis. And what type of question? You can see that this is an experiment question. Okay, this is an experiment question. Now remember, I teach you before, if you see any experiment question, all right, a few things should come into your mind. Now let's recap about what are the things that you should look out for in an experiment question. Number 1, you should identify what is the aim of the experiment. Okay, you should identify the aim of the experiment. Now in the aim of experiment, you can see the change variable, right? So John had 3 tubes S, T, and U containing equal amount of chloroplast mixed with the same amount of blue liquid L. This blue mixture will turn green after photosynthesis has taken place. Okay, so you can see here there are 3 tubes. But what's the difference between these 3 tubes is the distance from the lamp. Right? So you can see that the distance from the lamp is actually the change variable. Okay, so let's take a look at the first fill in the blanks here. Now, what is the aim of the experiment? Okay, let's ask. All right, Jolene, are you there? Okay, Jolene, can you say what is the aim of the experiment? Not sure. Now, Zahin, what is the aim of the experiment here? To find out if the amount of light affects the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, to investigate how. All right, please focus. I don't want any Zain Malik and so on here. All right, to investigate how the intensity of light or how the amount of light affects the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, or the amount of light, okay, or the intensity of light affects the rate of photosynthesis. Very good. Now, what's the change variable here? The distance between the lamp and the mixture, right? The distance between the lamp and the mixture. Okay, very good, Iman. Huh? So you can see here in test tube S, the distance is 10 cm. Test tube T, the distance is 20 cm. Test tube U, the distance is 30 cm. So what happened as you increase the distance between the test tube and the lamp, right? Increase to 10, 20 to 30. The time taken for the mixture to turn green increases, right? You can see that it increases. Okay, so the change variable here is the distance between the lamp and the mixture, and the dependent variable is also known as the result of the experiment. You can also call this the result of the experiment. This is what you collect in the experiment, okay, to answer the aim of the experiment, which is the time taken for the mixture to turn green. So you notice that if you analyze the table, as the distance between the lamp and the mixture increases, the time taken for the mixture to turn green increases from 9 seconds to 36 seconds. Now, what does it say when the amount of time for the mixture to turn green increases? So what can we say about this? Why is it that the time taken for the mixture to turn green increases? Anyone? Why is it that the time taken for the mixture to turn green increases? No volume, you sure? Because the amount of light decreases. Yes, because the intensity of light or the amount of light decreases. So the rate of photosynthesis actually decrease. And remember, what does turning green means? It means that when it turns green means photosynthesis has taken place. Okay? So when you are in part 3 here, as the distance between the lamp and the mixture increases, okay, the time taken for the mixture to turn green also increases, right? So what is the key science concept here? So what is required for photosynthesis? You know that light energy is required for photosynthesis. Very good. So the intensity of light, the greater the intensity of light, the greater is the rate of photosynthesis. So you know that. Okay, very good, Maya. All right. So you know that as the when you want to make sure that the plant grows well, you have to ensure that there is sufficient amount of light. Okay, if the plant does not receive sufficient amount of light, it will not be able to photosynthesize well, and it will die if it doesn't get enough food. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next topic. Okay, this is last year PSLE question. Okay, last year PSLE question. I'm giving you about 1 minute to look through the question. Okay, now let's discuss a little bit. Now, what concept are they testing you here? Okay, what concept? Yes, concept of germination. What is required for germination? What is required for? Okay, Mukund, what is required for germination? Is it only warmth? Wow, right? Remember, 3 things are required. Alman says sunlight. Alman, I think you're not listening in class. Do you need sunlight for germination? No, you don't need sunlight for germination. You have to know this. You only require wow, right? Wow, what does wow means? Warmth, oxygen or air, and water. Okay. All right, let's take a look. After some time, the farmer found that the seeds in the outer layer of the whole germinated. That means the seeds here. Okay, the seeds here, right? The seeds here in the outer part here germinated, but the seeds in the center, did not germinate. The seeds in the center, okay, the center doesn't germinate. Now explain why. Anyone can explain why? Very good. The seeds in the middle did not get water and warmth. Very good. Okay, lack of the condition. Yes. What kind of condition? So you need to be specific in the condition. You need to be able to explain. Now, what you need to recall what condition is necessary for germination, and then looking at this example, you have to explain. Are these conditions available? Are these conditions present? All right. So if the seed cannot or did not germinate, so you know that the conditions for germination is not present. Okay. And later on, we will take a look at the answer. Now, part B, would the seeds in the center of the hole decompose after some time? Explain your answer. Would the seed at the center of the hole decompose? Anyone? Yes, Irma, don't worry. We'll get this video and I'll email to all parents about the recording of this video. Okay, why? Anyone can answer. Why would the seed in the center of the hole decompose after some time? Haris, Mikhail, Haris, can you hear me? Okay, I think you have to check your internet connection, because so far, the students do not have any problems hearing. Okay, maybe you can check maybe Wi-Fi connection. Okay, so cause no water which is needed for decomposition. Okay, anyone say that the seeds will decompose? Okay. Okay, Daniel, why do you say that the seed in the middle will decompose? Daniel, why do you think the seeds in the middle will decompose? Okay, please take note. We are not talking here about the germination. Okay, we are not talking about germination. The second part A is about germination. Now, for germination, you need water and you need warmth and air to for the seed to germinate. But decompose, what do you need to decompose? Yeah, decomposition is under the topic of environment. Okay. Okay, Mukund. So what is your answer? How do you explain your answer? Okay, will the seed in the middle, in the center of this pile decompose? Okay, all right. Okay, so what happens here? Okay, now my answer, I will say that it decomposes. Okay, now first in part A, okay, in part A we know that water, air, and warmth are needed for germination. So seeds in the outer layer receives water, air, and warmth, causing them to germinate. Right? So seeds in the center of the hole did not receive enough water and air to germinate. Right? So this is for part A. Now, but for part B, the center will the keyword here is after some time. All right. Now, after some time, what will happen is that you can see here, you will still receive air. Okay, air will still be able to enter because only the top part is sealed, right? Okay, when the seeds in the outer layer germinate, okay, when the seeds in the outer layer germinate, right, it will start to grow, right? It will start to grow, and then it will take in water, all right, and then it will, so after some time, water will be present, and it will get into the middle of the seeds in the middle. Likewise, air also after some time, okay, it will create space and it will go into in the middle. Okay, so hence water and air will reach the seeds in the center and it will start to decompose. All right, can okay, so the keyword here you see here, after some time. So after some time, okay, the decomposers will be present, okay, and water and air, okay, will also get into in the middle, the seeds in the middle for decomposition to take place. All right, okay, let's take a look at the next question. Okay, I'm giving you 2 minutes to look through this next question here. All right. Now, leaves have tiny opening called stomata on their surfaces. So leaves here, so you have here stomata, right? So this is under the very powerful microscope. So some of the gases that move through the stomata, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and water vapor. Now let's recall what is the function of the stomata. Okay, what's the function of the stomata? Anyone? Okay, Ilhan, what's the function of the stomata? Okay, exchange of gases for what processes? Okay, very good. Number one is for exchange of gases for the process of both respiration and photosynthesis, right? Number two is for transpiration or to allow water to escape or to give out water. All right, so we know that plants take in water through the roots and water is given out through the stomata. So two function, one is the exchange of gases. Number two is for for transpiration or giving out of water. So if you take a look at this graph, okay, Rashid measured the changes in the size of the stomata. So if you take a look at the vertical axis here, is the average size of the stomata, and this is the time. The horizontal axis is the time. All right, so you notice that from between 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. So what is significant between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m.? Is there light? Is there sunlight? No sunlight, right? So when no sunlight, you can see the average size of stomata is low, only 1 unit. But the moment after 6 a.m. is where sunrise, right? So when the sun rises, okay, light is, the plant is, the leaf is beginning to receive light energy. So that's why the size of the stomata increases, and it will peak at this point. This point is between around 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Right? So this is the amount of where the sun is up, so it receives light energy for photosynthesis to take place. Okay. Now let's take a look at the question. Based on this result, what effects did light have on the size of the stomata? Okay, number two, how does the size of change the size of stomata helps in photosynthesis? Number three, the change in the size of the stomata in the presence of light can also be disadvantage. Why is it a disadvantage? Now, anyone wants to answer question part A first? Part A. What effect did light have on the size of the stomata? Okay, anyone? Just type out your answer. Okay, part A, we are focusing on part A. The question is, what effect did light have on the size of the stomata? So you need to focus on light and the size of the stomata. Anyone wants to answer for part A? When the amount of, okay, when she say when the amount of light increases, the size of the stomata also increases. Okay, very good. Okay, when there's more light, the size of stomata increases. Okay, very good. All right, so all of you shouldn't have any problems with this. Now, what about part B? How does the change in the size of stomata helps in photosynthesis? This is a little bit tricky. How does the change in the size of the stomata helps in the photosynthesis? First of all, let's recall what is photosynthesis? Is the process in which plants make food, right? So what is taken in? What gas is taken in during photosynthesis? Carbon dioxide, right? And what gas is given out? For the oxygen gas is given out. So if we have a larger size of stomata, where the size stomata is larger, so how does it help in photosynthesis? Ian, how does having larger stomata helps in photosynthesis? Okay, and Daniel say it takes in more oxygen to photosynthesize at faster rate, takes in more oxygen. Okay, if you say that, you're conceptually wrong because photosynthesis takes in carbon dioxide. Okay, rate of photosynthesis will increase. Okay, very good. Okay, why? So how does the change the size of stomata helps in photosynthesis? All right, so as the size of the stomata increases in the presence of light, the leaves can take in more carbon dioxide. It can take in more carbon dioxide, hence increasing the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, increasing the rate of photosynthesis. All right, now part C, the change in the size of the stomata in the presence of light can also be disadvantaged. Why is there a problem when the size of the stomata increases too much? The plant will lose, okay, Wenqi said that the plant will lose too much water due to the lack of water. Okay, it will lose too much. What's the problem if plant lose too much water? It will wilt and probably die, right? Will wilt and die. Okay, so you have to answer. They say that what is a disadvantage? So you need to mention this. You cannot just say the plants will lose too much water. So what's the problem with losing too much water? So you need to move on, or you need to continue answer saying that it will wilt and probably die. Okay, if it loses too much water. That's why you see plants, desert plants, where you don't receive a lot of water in the desert. Plants in the desert, cactus, it has very, very small leaves. Okay, the cactus, you see the thorns are actually the leaves of the cactus. Now, the reason why they are thorns because it reduces the exposed surface area very much, so the size of stomata is very, very little. So the very little water is being lost, right? Because in the desert you don't receive much water, so the plants need to store water for as long as possible. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. All right, I'll give you about 1 to 2 minutes to look through this question. Now, this is a past PSLE question. So, straight away, you can recall that this is about the circulatory system and comparing between the circulatory system of the fish and human. So, on the right side here, the circulatory system of the human, and here on the left side, the circulatory system of fish. Okay. All right. So you can see here that now this arrow, what does this arrow represent? The arrows represent anyone? What does the arrow represent? The flow of or the movement of blood, right? So the blood for humans, right, from the lungs. Okay, the lungs is where oxygen is being absorbed during respiration, and then it goes to the heart and transported to all parts of the body. Okay, transported to all parts of the body, and then once the oxygen are being used, it goes back. Okay, carbon dioxide is produced, and it goes back to the lungs to release the carbon dioxide, and then the cycle continues. Right, the cycle continues. Likewise for the fish, you can see here, even though the direction and the direction of the flow are they're slightly different, but basically what happens as if you take a look at the right side here, as the fish swims, right, the water which has dissolved oxygen will go to the gills, and the gills will absorb the oxygen, right? So the oxygen is taken in, and transported by the blood to all parts of the fish. Okay, to all parts of the fish, and then it goes back to the heart. Now this is the heart here. It goes back to the heart, and then goes back to the gills, and then the carbon dioxide are released. Okay. Now state one difference between the gases found in the blood flowing at P and Q. Now anyone can tell what's the difference between the gases found in the blood flowing in P and Q? Okay, anyone can say. All right. Once you say that the flow of blood from gills to fish body was human, okay, that is for part A. Yeah? Okay, Ishira said the blood P has more carbon dioxide than blood at Q. Okay, P. So if you look at P, okay, let's analyze P. Yeah? P is where the blood is going back into the gills. So when the blood is going back to the gills, you think it will be rich in oxygen or poor in oxygen? Rich or poor in oxygen? We poor in oxygen, right? Okay, very good. Mikael, poor in oxygen, but will be rich in carbon dioxide. All right. So after the gills here, okay, let's take a look at Q. Q for human, right? The blood that goes, that just coming out from the lungs and goes to the heart and going to the different parts of the body. So Q here will be rich in, Q will be rich in what? Rich in oxygen. Very good. Q will be rich in oxygen, right? Rich in oxygen. So as it goes to back to the to all different parts of the body, goes to the heart, and then once respiration takes place, okay, the carbon dioxide are released back to the lungs, at the lungs. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at the answer here. State one differences between the direction of the flow of blood in a fish and human. So the flow of blood in fish is in one direction from the heart, while in human it is in two directions from the heart. That is the difference in the flow. For part B, what is the difference between the gases found in the blood flowing at P and Q? The blood flowing at P, okay, at P has high concentration of carbon dioxide, okay, and low concentration of oxygen, while the blood flowing in Q has a high concentration of oxygen and low concentration of carbon dioxide. Easy, right? Quite easy, right? Okay, very good. Concentration means the amount. Okay, you don't have to write the word concentration. You can say that the blood flowing at P has a high amount or rich in carbon dioxide and poor in oxygen. All right, so you can say use the word rich in oxygen, poor in oxygen, rather than concentration. So no problem at all. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. Next question. Okay, let's take a look at this question. Past PSLE question. Okay, 1 minute. I'll give you 1 minute to take a look. Okay, now let's take a look at this question. Ian, oh not Ian, Iwan. Ian, almost similar name, Ian. All right. Okay, Iwan plays. I think Ian is no more here already. Okay, no problem. All right, Iwan plays 4 similar oranges in 4 identical sealed boxes. He placed boxes P and Q in a cold place and boxes R and S in a warm place. So substance Y absorb water from the surrounding. So what's the purpose here? Substance Y. Okay, take a look. This one, some students may be confused. What is the purpose of this substance Y? Okay, some students may think that, oh, substance Y absorb water. So that means here there's lots of water here. Less of water in the air. So it is actually opposite. Okay, it is actually the opposite. If substance Y absorb water, so it means that air in the box will have very little water or will have no water. Okay, but in box P and R, there is lots of water, right? Because water here, evaporate. So there will be lots of moisture, water vapor in the air here in box P and box R, but not in Q and S. Box P, Q and S, there will be it will be quite dry because all the water has been absorbed by substance Y. Right? So let's take a look at the concepts here. So here they are testing you about growth in fungi. How fungi or fungus grows best in what condition? Okay, so it can grow well in certain condition. Number one, it must have air. It must be airy. Okay, sorry, it must have air. It must have water, and it must have warmth. And we know that fungi do not make its own food. Okay, now let's take a look at part A here. In which box P, Q, or S would the fungus first appear in the orange? Okay, the answer is box R. Right? Why? Because fungus grows best in wet and warm condition. Okay, wet and warm. Wet, why? Because we have lots of water here and it is warm. So when it is wet and warm, it grows multiply very quickly. Okay, so when you say in part B, wearing slippers helps makes the feet less warm, right? So they tell you that the doctor advised you want to wear slippers instead of shoes. Okay, so if you have fungus growing, anyone have this experience of fungus growing at your feet? I hope not, Danya, your mom, never? Okay. Yes, Mikael, you had this experience? I think you play rugby, right? Sometimes, you know, if the rugby boots, right? Okay. Yeah, okay. So the one way to reduce or to prevent fungus from growing in your feet, okay, is for you to wear slippers instead of shoes. Now, why? What's the reason? Now, we take a look at the clues given to you in part A. So we know that part A, fungus will appear in where it is wet and warm, right? Where you need water and you need warmth for fungus to grow best. Now, when you wear slippers instead of shoes, what is happening is that, okay, wearing slippers will keep your feet cooler. Okay, you keep your feet cooler instead of warm. So warm, fungus will grow. So to prevent it or to reduce the growth, you reduce the heat, right? You reduce the heat, so you make your feet cooler. Because if you wear shoes, okay, the heat will be trapped in the shoes, and it will facilitate or it will be good for fungus to grow. Number two, the sweat. Our feet sweat, right? So when we sweat, what happened that if we wear slippers, the sweat can evaporate very easily. Okay, the water vapor can escape very easily. Hence, the feet will not be sweaty. But if you wear shoes instead, what is going to happen is that your feet is going to get sweaty, wet very easily, and also under warm condition, okay, it will facilitate or increase the growth of fungus. Okay, so that's why when you are wearing shoes, if you play sports, boots and so on, you need to dry your boots very quickly. Okay, if not, if you wear your boots and then it's wet and then you just chuck it inside the cupboard, right? It will be wet for a long period of time and then very warm, so fungus will grow. So when fungus grow, then you travel to your feet and then your feet will have fungus also. All right. All right. Now let's take a look at the next question. Next question. All right. Now let's take a look at this question. So this is one of the PSLE question, I think 3 years ago. Have you seen this question before? This is the last question. Don't worry, okay? I know some of you are going out. Anybody going out? No, okay. Oh, Dana, going out. Where are you going? Oh, Mikhail, you're going out also. Having dinner or what? Go makan. Oh, very good. Play cousin. Okay, good. All right. I'm going off my chair to my Faiz going to sleep. Okay, it's good to sleep early. All right. Now let's take a look at this question. Now, animal ant stays in its hard shell when resting. It extends itself from its shell when feeding. Okay. So you see, if you take your PSLE later on, and then you see this animal, some students they get worried. Hey, what animal is it? Very strange animal. this animal here, it has hair on it, right? So you will see a lot of, you may see different kinds of organism or different things that in the exams where you have never seen before, never experienced before, but not to worry, you just focus on the parts which matters. So here, you see here, they tell you the animal end stays in a hard shell when resting. So this is a clue here. When resting, this animal stays in a hard shell. All right. When feeding, then it extends itself. So this extension is actually part of this animal end, which will be exposed only when feeding. But resting, it will go inside. So the question is, how does animal end protect itself from the predator? Quite easy, right? Common sense, right? Because hard shell. Keyword here is hard shell. Okay. So animal end protect itself from predators by hiding in its hard shell when it is not looking for food. Right? It is hiding inside the hard shell when it is not looking for food. Okay, part B. Part B, let's take a look at part B. Now, animal end attaches itself to underwater surface of ships and gets carried to other places without using much energy. How does being carried to other places benefit animal end? What does benefit means? Why is it advantageous for animal end? Right? At first, okay, if it is going to other place, so you can, okay, so this is about, you know, being able to survive better, okay, by being in a new location. Now remember, animal have to compete, organism have to compete with one another, okay, for things like air, food, right? Sunlight for plants, okay, and for space. So by going to other places, so what happened here is that animal end can live in new areas and reduce the competition for food amongst the same species. It can reduce the competition for food amongst the same species. Okay, so for part C, tiny green plants can also attach themselves to underwater surfaces of ships. Okay, so you can see the tiny green plants, animal end. Scientists observe that the ships with many tiny green plants, okay, so you can see tiny green plants and animal end is in the middle. You can see animal end is in the middle. So scientists observe that ships with many tiny green plants have fewer animal end attached to them. Give a reason for this observation. And you can see here competition, okay, being it's happening, competition between the green plant and animal end. So if you see, if you have many animals, plants, organisms living together, there is bound to be competition. Okay, so give a reason why you have less end. So the tiny green plants compete for oxygen or space with animal end. Okay, the tiny green plants compete for oxygen and space with animal end. All right. Yes, we can write both also, no problem. Okay, or either one of them. Okay. Can, huh? All right. So we are done for today. So now remember the life sciences topic. There are a lot of topics under life sciences: adaptation, webs of life, even cells. Okay, cells, but cells not very common. Human reproduction. Okay, and you have topics like plant transport system, xylem, phloem, food carrying tube, water carrying tube. Okay, and in primary 3, 4, you have life cycle. Okay, so there are many topics that they can ask with regards to life sciences. Okay, so let's take questions. You have any question, please post in